Thank you. And you know, it's so funny because like a friend of mine is a kettlebell instructor, a fantastic instructor, and he always opens up with the same line that there are exercises with the kettlebell and there are kettlebell exercises, and they're two different things.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the same with Pilates. So whenever I say to instructors, when you're breaking away from Pilates exercises in a Pilates class, educate your people and let them know, okay, we're doing a yoga exercise now. Okay, we're going back to our Pilates exercises. So at least the people in the room are educated as to when you're doing Pilates and when you're not doing Pilates in your Pilates class.
Yeah, or we could just start doing Pilates.
Hey, that's a great idea. So, my friend, you work with Pilates for men as well. You said we were talking about earlier. You're saying like I work with men too. So,
Well, I just said, well, I'm not a man, but I do. I didn't know if you only interviewed men.
no, no,
It's just a passion of mine to make Pilates something that men can identify with.
yes, exactly, and that's and no, I do men, women. Uh, you know, it doesn't really matter who. But I just there's certain things that just really resonate with me, like Pilates for athletes, Pilates for men specifically, are two areas where I see for athletes that there's so many opportunities for growth and for performance improvement by getting stronger in their weakest links. And then also for men, it's just, you know, we're all just jacked up. Like, you know, there's so many different places in our body that could just benefit from it, right? So, but Jeff, tell me, like, has that always been a passion for you? Or is that just something you've seen where you're like, okay, I definitely I can definitely help these people?
I think it's always been a passion for me because my husband, who his thing is, well, he was an athlete his whole youth as well, ice hockey and soccer and those kind of snowy Swiss sport things. And bodybuilding is his hobby. And as you know, when you lift weights, then everything gets, well, nice and big and looks good, but it tightens up. So having him do Pilates has really improved his body. And he says it makes bodybuilding, well, not bodybuilding, he's not a bodybuilder anymore, but it makes weightlifting go better for him. And then my son, who started, he's 21 now, he started doing Pilates maybe around age 8 or so. Just Pilates on the mat. That's how I started with the mat work, which is interesting. You know, so many people come to Pilates, you know, because something hurts or they're in rehab or they're dancers or things like that. And I just came to it more as a normal person. There was nothing wrong with my body. I was fine. I had always been an athlete through my whole youth. And so I came to it strong, but nothing like how I am now, for sure. I'm much stronger.
Yes. Yeah. The Fabrice and I were talking about the mat work yesterday and just the advantage that gives us as coaches, where people are, I think people are going to come back to the studios stronger because they are owning their work now.
For sure. For sure. I mean, the mat work is very transparent. Either you can do something or you can't. I mean, of course, you can always modify it, but it makes you, it's humbling. Versus on the equipment, you know, as an instructor, we can always make things a little bit easier for someone. We can help support them through the springs.
Yes.
Hashtag springs, that's my thing too, but that's another day. But, you know, it can be super hard on the equipment too, of course.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
But you can also make it so much easier. And on the mat, it's
nowhere to hide.
Shows what you got. Yeah, really it does. And people are going to come back just being so much more effective on the equipment. It's really, in that way, it's really exciting. It's our job as a teacher to present it to the individual so that it matches their mentality or their character.
Yeah.
You know, we have to tap into whatever it is that they need that makes them drawn to come back. You know, if they need it a little bit softer or easier or modified, then we provide that step by step, you know, slower. And then other people just want to conquer something, then you make it tough. You know, that's, I think that, I mean, we each have a teaching style, but I think the truly high level Pilates teacher is able to sense those nuances of what they need to provide in order to get that feeling that, you know, they want more.
Yes, that connection with the person that's going to bring that retention.
So when I developed my website, I used my husband and my son as the models for the photographs. I mean, I'm teaching them, but and my dad's up there too in a couple of the pictures. And my goal was just to provide, you know, shots of just regular men. You know, my son's super tall, and my husband is, you know, athletically built, but, you know, they're not especially flexible by any means. And when I do my mat class, my husband and son are up front. They're the models in the class. So one of them shows the beginning level version, and my husband shows the more advanced. And then I'm free to walk around and tactile cue and all that good stuff. And then they see men doing the actual work. You know what I mean? So everywhere you go in things that I do, the people are seeing men doing the Pilates movements, and not doing it perfectly, doing it well, but it's nothing about doing it perfectly. They just have good technique.
Yes.
And through that, over time, it's definitely worked. I have more and more and more men. I would say probably at least a good, you know, sometimes half a class is men.
That's fantastic.
And for sure, from my clientele at the studio, I would say 40 to 50% almost are men.
That's awesome.
And I have guys that are so into it that they'll bring their wives and have duet sessions with their wives, where, you know, they're paying not just for themselves, but for their wife to come in, and they take it as a like time with their spouse and get their workout. They see a lot of value in it.
I think we need more of that. Like the visual, like you're saying, is so key. It just normalizes it. It makes it look like something that's achievable for them, because they look like the person that is doing the work. Even if their flexibility may be superior to them, they see an athlete up there. They see a male up there. They see, you know, something that looks like them, or something like they want to look like up there.
Or just a guy. It doesn't even have to be, you know, athletic. It just needs to be like a guy that maybe can't, you know, stretch their leg up all the way straight. And that's, you know, and that be okay. And that they're still, you know, executing the moves really well and getting a lot out of it and getting stronger. Right. You know, because in the end, well, at least my goal for my clients is that they get strong. Yes. So, you know, I love that Pilates does all the rehab work, and I can do that as well. I just don't get as much joy from it, to be honest.
Yes.
You know, I like to provide really that workout where they feel like from the beginning to the end, they are moving, they are using every single muscle in their body, and they feel like super exhilarated after, because it has been such an intense workout. Yes. You know, fully focused, athletic.
Yeah, and that's
difficult.
And that's your niche. And that's perfect. There's you know, to be that person to you. Like I used to work with a lady, a Pilates instructor, who loves that corrective exercise component to it. So she would get someone from zero to movement, and that just really rocked her world when she could have somebody that couldn't touch their toes and now they can. So she'll do a million exercises working on the minutia to get that small movement, And
Yeah.
that's just as important as a person who wants to get somebody in there and just bury them with some exercise and make them feel like this is a legitimate workout.
Well, I mean, I also believe in what I believe in is the effectiveness of Pilates in and of itself. So if
Yes.
Pilates as a method is done and executed correctly, you will also achieve those things like being able to touch your toes, and the stretch component is built in. I mean, it's a magical, amazing method, as you know.
Yes.
It's just a matter of proper technique. What I don't like is harping on the details so much that you miss the movement. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Can you say some more about that though? But I follow you, but expand on that.
so over cueing is
Oh,
a pet peeve of mine. Yeah. Or cueing with too many anatomical terms. Because when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if someone knows where their serratus anterior is or not. It's our job to know. And
yeah.
it's our job to get them to move their body parts so that they can do the exercise properly. They don't need to know what the muscles are named or any of those things. It just
Sure.
sometimes I feel like it just makes Pilates teachers feel better about themselves, like they feel sounds good when they say it. But really, it just takes up time. You know, if you talk about all the different scapula placement instead of just saying pull your shoulder blades together, you know what I mean? Like it's like, what is your goal? Is your goal to get them going and to get them feel it and to get them in the correct placement so that they don't hurt themselves? Yes. Then what is your most efficient and effective way to get them to that?
There is a term that reminds me of a term that I learned in one of my courses I took, the economy of words.
Yes.
I love that term because like that's
Yeah.
exactly it. There's an economy of words when you're getting people to move, where you don't have to get super technical and geek out on every muscle every fiber that's burning and firing as you
Right.
go. Just get them moving with an economy of words, and they can understand where you want them to be in space.
Right. And then when teaching men, it's often people are not choosing their words wisely. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if people or women have not really been talking to men, or of course I also grew up with an older brother. That's my, maybe that helps. You know, I know how guys talk amongst themselves,
Right.
and there's wording that you just don't want to use when you're teaching a guy. Even something like if you're doing the mermaid exercise, if I'm teaching men, I'm not going to say mermaid.
Right.
Why do they want to be a mermaid? Do you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
know, I'll just say side bend.
Okay. So
And I
think
won't do it with a pretty ballet arm. You know, I'll take
yeah.
my hand behind my head and make the elbow bend. You know, just something as simple as that. You get
That's fair.
exactly
Yeah.
the same exercise, but you make them feel more comfortable in their skin.
Now, I agree with that. I look in like I mean in Joseph Plies just called it a mermaid, so I call it a mermaid. So I never really thought about that. But this is the one part that I have had an issue with. I've spoken to my wife about this too. Is what I call gender-centric cueing.
Okay.
Roll back to your bra line. I'm not wearing a bra. Well, why would you tell me to roll to my bra line? Like,
Okay, so I know where you're going, but here, how about this? So I like that line. I mean, it's a really vivid spot. It's very clear to a woman, you know, like, so if I'm cueing a woman, it's like, where would you hook the bra? You know, connect that to a mat. But a guy also knows where that is. It's where do you unhook the bra? Do you know what I mean?
but
Like
there's not an
it's
economy of words there anymore.
you could say that really fast. You can have a little laugh, and they know exactly what you're talking about, and then you move on. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like it's just a matter of remembering who's in the session,
Yes.
and then adjusting, make up that little bit of adjustment, and then you know they think it's funny, and of
Yeah.
course
Yeah.
that I like to make a session fun. It
Yeah.
is their free time after all,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to laugh. That's the other thing. Like, good Lord, like why are we being so serious all the time?
It's
You
so boring
know?
sometimes. It is. It is.
Yeah, just
I
like
think yeah, but what you're getting to, Labriece, which I really like, is the fact that you're not lazy with your cues.
no,
Right. And that's really what it comes down to, is that like sometimes we do get lazy with our cues and we kind of go on autopilot and just throw stuff out there when, yeah, like you said, like you can adjust what you're saying so that it resonates with the people that are there. And like that makes total sense to me.
Pilates is not necessarily, you know, an easy, soft thing. It can also be super challenging,
Yes.
but doable. That's the other thing. It's interesting. Either people think that Pilates is really boring and just, you know, you just do like a few breathing things on a mat, or people are really scared of it and they're like, it's too hard, I can't do it.
Yes.
And making Pilates doable for
Yes.
everybody.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Which it is.
Here's a comment. Labriece is an amazing instructor. Even my husband loves taking her classes, taking classes for Serendipity Pilates.
Oh, yeah. Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Her husband is this huge guy. He's this policeman who, see, these are the guys that I love. They have so much respect for their wives and what their wives love to do that they try it, that they're not afraid to try something that they know nothing about. And, you know, once he tried it, he realized, oh, this is really what my body needs, and it'll help me, you know, whatever, with his work, with his judo and all these other things. And it's like, he's an example of why springs, I think, are so important.
Yes.
This is something, I mean, oh my goodness, springs. You gotta start putting on those green springs and using heavier springs so that a man will actually feel their body doing something. Yes. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to studios all over the place. I always take either my son or my husband with me if I try out a studio. And they will have the same spring settings for me, for my son, for the 60-year-old woman next to me. It's impossible. You cannot teach a man with the same spring setting as a woman. It's not going to work. It's not. You have to make it heavier or super light or whatever it is, you know, whatever it is that exercise needs, so that they feel like their body is really doing something. And on the when you start out with them, if they can have something that reminds them of something that they're familiar with, whether that be weightlifting or one of their sports, or like football. I think you said you were into football, Martin. Yeah, that kind. Right. You still play? Do you still play it?
I play flag now. I still like to run, still like to catch and stuff. So I don't necessarily need to hit anything anymore. Got that in my system, but yeah.
My brother still plays flag football. He just turned 50. God help him. Yes. But you know, so if you can connect something where they feel their muscles working in that similar kind of way, then they can identify it with it, and then you can, you know, you can weave in some of the things that are, you know, on the ladder barrel, and they have some stretches, and oh my gosh. But you need to have something that they can connect to, something that they can say, okay, I'm familiar with what that feels like in my body. Whereas when I do a teacher training program, the first thing I do is nuts and bolts. Yes. How do you take that machine apart? How do you put the springs on? You know, feel the springs, pull each single one and compare it. And, you know, I make them think about each exercise. Is it springs that are going to help it? Is it springs that are going to make it easier or harder? So that they have to think about the choice that we're making. So if we choose to put on 2 red springs or 2 regular, you know, if you're classical, just 2 springs, why? And why would you choose to do it one way or the other, a different way?
Yes.
If you don't think about that, if you're just going through the motions, then you're never going to get the most out of for your clients. Right. And I'm always taking my clients right to, I talk about there's this edge that you try to get to. And it's like, let's take weightlifting, for example. Weightlifting, you always have to go past the edge. You have to overload, you have to go, you have to overload in order to, you know, bulk up or tame it. You've got to go past what you can actually do, past the point of exhaustion. But with Pilates, I always try to get right to that edge But the thing is that the edge is always shifting.
Yes.
So you have to keep finding it. As they progress, you have to keep always getting to them to that point, or they will never get stronger. And
Right.
it's just, if you just leave it there, it's like mediocrity. You're not going to, they won't feel it. They
There's
won't
no
get
challenge.
improvement in their body. They won't get stronger.
Right, right.
You
There's
know,
no challenge at that point.
there's no challenge. I substituted once for someone in my area mat class. These people had been doing mat work for, some of them, 7, 8 years with this instructor. They couldn't do a roll up to save their life. Couldn't do a roll up, couldn't do a rollover. Just your basic, hard exercises maybe at the get go, but for sure in the first few months, at some point, you should be able to edge yourself into the ability of doing that exercise.
Absolutely.
If you're doing it correctly and if you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. I've seen here too where there's Pilates classes where I've subbed a class for someone and then realize in retrospect that they were teaching them yoga. They weren't actually teaching them Pilates the whole time.
Okay.
Almost like there wasn't enough Pilates mat exercises in their personal repertoire to teach 50 minutes worth.
Sure. Yeah, or people do body forming.
You have to weave in yoga exercises to get through the hour.
Right.
Whereas if they did 50 minutes of a mat repertoire, they'd be huffing and sweating.
Oh yeah.
If it's done right, when you really unpack the exercises correctly, as opposed to, okay, let's go to a cat and cow now. Okay, let's go to like that sort of thing.
The actual work, I feel like oftentimes people will do something more like a body forming class or something like that, and then they'll throw in maybe the hundreds and single leg stretch. But really they're doing, I'm not quite sure what they're doing. It's not that it's a bad class,
it's not
but
bad.
It's just not Pilates. But also stop correcting so much. Like it's okay if their elbows bent a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Pick what you want to care about. And if people are overcorrected, then they also start thinking, good Lord, like, what's wrong with me? Can I not do anything right? Anything right?
Honestly, one of my friends is a psychologist. When I introduced him to Pilates, it opened up this whole conversation about achievement. And what happens with Pilates is sometimes, depending on the way that we've been taught, we are so focused on our cues and correcting and just getting this perfect execution of a movement that people walk away from a whole class feeling that they didn't actually achieve anything, even if they are sweating because they didn't do anything right today.
Exactly.
Heels together,
exactly.
Those legs, straighten those legs, back taller, make it extend through that back, extend. So we have all these cues and corrections and stuff, and all we're doing is correcting behavior for 50 minutes and send them on their way. They don't actually get a sense of achievement. So that, when we had that conversation, that made me very conscientious next time going into my class as to how I was cueing, and yes, choose what hell I'm going to die on today. Like, what things going to focus on, what things going to let go, so that some people can get a sense of, hey, I did something right today, instead of, wow, I suck at this.
The number one thing is that after the session that they feel that, like, their body moves better, they feel better about themselves, they've got all this good stuff going. And then they also, on that some kind of a deeper emotional level, they just feel better about themselves because they've also heard, oh, wow, that I did a great job. It's just nice.
Yes.
It's just nice to hear.
It's like this. If I have a group of people that I teach, and then you were to walk in the room and then teach them the following week, I would want the people to be like so good that you were like, wow, Martin's really good instructor. Look how good these people move.
Okay.
I'm being honest, that's it. I wouldn't want you to walk in the room and be like, yo, these people know nothing. Who is this guy?
Which is what I usually do. I'm like, oh my God, what have they been teaching them?
This guy's been teaching them. Did you just get a mail order Pilates, sir?
Well, I know that if a group of people can't do the exercises, they haven't been doing Pilates. That's just, then you just know. They've been doing those kind of, I don't know. Yeah, faux laddies, I call it.
Faux lattes.
Faux laddies.
That's gonna be a hashtag. I like that.
Yeah, hashtag faux laddies.
Yeah. Gee. We make that the still shot.
Like if your screen freezes, don't you want to be like, have that perfect look, and instead you're like, oh my god. No.
Yes.
Oh god.
You have to practice that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Black Girl Pilates, Mountain
Yes,
Brothers Pilates. Yay!
Too funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Did Sonia come visit you in Switzerland?
Not yet.
Okay.
What's up with that, Sonia?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. She's awesome though.
Yes, for sure. She's our fearless leader.
Yes. And there's this guy, I think he's watching right now, Chris. No, I'm not sure if he's on. But this white guy who's like an actor and San Diego Pilates guy, he's just like, I love Sonia's stuff. I watch her cues all the time. I was like, nice. He's cool dude, man. I met him yesterday, and yeah, saying happy birthday to my stepdaughter, and like,
aww,
pretty cool dude. But yeah, he was just singing her praises as well. So
I'm trying to push my thing with Sonia is I'm trying to push her as the best hands-on cuer ever.
Nice.
Yeah, she's amazing. Her tactile cues
are very cool. I didn't know that you, when I met with her in Detroit and we did that, like we talked a lot about those hands-on cues. Because my first cert was with Peak Pilates. And,
okay.
And I love Peak because it really taught me a lot of solid verbal cues. Like really
yes.
good, like tight cues, right? So I love that. And then as I went into another apprenticeship with Chris Robinson, learned a lot of like the hands-on stuff. And those pieces together, it's perfect, right? For the time to have some, teenage girl, and she's like, I'm not going to touch you. I just want to talk to you. That's fine. And then there's times where I have a guy where you need to be like, just working. Like, yeah. So, so when you have both of them in your arsenal, like you're a bad man, right? So.
Well, yeah, and in a group class, I always say, if you're tactile cueing on somebody,
mm-hmm.
Your eyes are everywhere else. So I always say, like, never look at who you have your hands on. Always have your head up and looking at everybody else, and then you can verbally cue. And if somebody needs a verbal cue, say it loud enough that everyone can benefit from it, so they're not being singled out.
There are so many of you out there, but at the same time, visible minorities, it seems like you're so few and far between. Let's to build that. So virtually we've met, guys, Saran, Ed, there's some guys out there, are like the OGs of this group, and we found more, and then Sonia's like, I found another brother, and like it's like she's
great.
She's like a bounty hunter. She's like finding
totally.
So it's good though. These guys they're such good dudes, right? And there's a mutual respect there that I think is humbling. If I reach out to them and say, I'd love to have you on a show and just to have a conversation, like I'd be honored to do that. I'm like, the honor is mine, man. Like, do you know what you do? Like,
yeah.
So it's cool. But overall, the love and the mutual respect that I feel in these two groups, the sisters group and the brothers groups, is amazing. I definitely feel that love and that support, and it's just a celebration of what we do and who we are.
For sure. And we can be real with each other. We can be honest. We know we're going to be supported. We can say what we think, what we feel. It's like no other group.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And such a resource, such amazing, brilliant minds and movers. Incredible.
Yeah, exactly. They're, it's all good stuff. I think that's all I had. I'm just